A beautiful evening to you out there and welcome to Sport Extraordinary on Atlantic Television Network. My name is Emmanuel Michael. I'm very glad to be here. This gist coming in from the world of football this evening. Of course, Pep Joseph Salah Guardiola he has vowed to rebuild Manchester City after what seems to be a very difficult season for them. And don't also forget that Rivers Hoopers, they are in the Sahara Conference of the basketball. All right, yeah, welcome back from that short break. In the building with me this evening to do justice to some of these topical, sporting stories we shall be discussing right here is Kingsley Emmanuel. Kingsley, good evening and welcome to Sport Extraordinary.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Michael. Very happy to be here.
All right, happy to be here indeed as always. But Kingsley, let's get started from the Aston Villa game tonight against Cardiff City. The FA Cup fifth round play, kicks off this evening as the top EPL side will be coming up against Cardiff City tonight. In the FA Cup, Kingsley, we've seen a couple of upsets where Plymouth is also, up there. The giant killer, you may reckon them to be, this year. But then for Cardiff City coming up against, Aston Villa this season, do you think that they have any chance at all?
I think they do. They do, of course. It's a game of football, and you cannot write any team off. So you definitely, of course, should expect something from Cardiff City in this particular one. But for Aston Villa, we understand, of course, their last game was not a very good one. I think they lost to Chelsea by...
No, they had to bounce back and won that game, 2-1, but they lost against West Ham.
Yeah, they actually lost against West Ham. That was actually the game I was talking about. So coming down, from a loss, it means, they will really want to fight to make sure they get things done this time around. So against Cardiff City, one would think, of course, it's going to be a roller coaster. Aston Villa that have been, of course, doing so well somehow, in the Premier League and as well as the UEFA Champions League this season. And for me, if you take a look at it, you won't want to give Cardiff City a chance. But it's a game of football, like I said. Anything can happen. Of course, you just mentioned Plymouth. Who knows? Who actually knows what, of course, Plymouth has. Seen them taking out big teams, so far in the competition. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and see what, of course, Cardiff City will be able to do against Leicester City tonight. Aston Villa tonight.
Aston Villa, they are not doing pretty well in their last few games right now, and their chances of qualifying for a top 4 finish remains hanging on a balance. Do you think that they should prioritize their priorities for this season? Maybe more like putting more effort, trying to see if they can win the FA Cup, or you think they should just focus on finishing within the top 4? Hence, they are enjoying the Champions League this season. Do you want them to continue that next season, or you think they should just prioritize one out of these 2 competitions?
For me, I think it's going to be based on this, the strength of the squad and what the coach wants, as well as what the team wants. They are in the Champions League, they are in the Premier League, looking forward to see how they can make that top 4 spots. And they're also in the UEFA Champions League. They made automatic qualification to the last 8 in the UEFA Champions League. and as well in the FA Cup right away, they are also in that contention. Don't forget, if you also win the FA Cup, it's also a route, of course, for you to get to
Europe.
play the, I think, Europa.
Yeah.
As this time. But Aston Villa, would they want to play Europa? Maybe since they play Champions League football, they want to up their game. So for me, I think maybe they should look at for two things at this point: fight for the Champions League spots and fight for the UEFA Champions League, which we know, of course, is not going to be easy, for them. But if they can possibly see how they can cement their place in the top 4 in the Premier League, and see if they can possibly push far in the UEFA Champions League, that of course will give them edge. Especially, the higher you go, the higher the prize money, of course, you get at the end of the day. So if they can prioritize the Premier League as well as the UEFA Champions League, I think that would be, of course, a whole lot for them. But if they also see the FA Cup to be something they can possibly lay their hands on, looking at the nature of teams, playing, that they can maybe get through and lay their hands on the title, I think it is something they can also focus on. But for me, I think at this point in time, when you take a look at the way Aston Villa they've been playing, they should prioritize at least one of these titles.
Of course, Aston Villa should prioritize one of these 2 titles that they are gunning for. In fact, 3 titles, because they are still in for the English Premier League chase. Who says that miracle doesn't really occur in football? But then, I tell you, it's going to be a mountain hill to climb. But they are still in for the English Premier League. Still very much in for the UEFA Champions League. Then, now in the 5th round of the FA Cup. So Kingsley think that they should prioritize one of these. It's either they are gunning for the FA Cup, they focus their channel and energy towards winning the FA Cup. It's either they want to finish top 4, they keep pushing and forget about the FA Cup and the UEFA Champions League. But if they want to go far in the UEFA Champions League, then they should prioritize the UEFA Champions League, because too many of these competitions may actually weigh them down. Taking a look at their squad numbers, talking about the in-depthness within the Aston Villa rank. We understand they've got a couple of players this season on loan, the likes of Marcus Rashford, Marcos Asensio, Access Disasi, but then can they actually do the rotation thing and make it work? It's a very big issue, and that is why Kingsley is saying they should prioritize one of these. But Kingsley, moving on to the Ligue 1 this evening, Monaco will be locking horns against Reims, and Monaco, they are in 5th position, in the French Ligue 1. Do you see Monaco getting all 3 points against Reims tonight?
It should be all 3 points for Monaco. When you take a look at current form of this side, you should want to give, of course, Monaco the edge in that particular encounter. Looking at the fact they are also fighting for the UEFA Champions League spot this time around, I think that will, of course, be a thing of motivation for them in this encounter against Reims. So for me, I think Monaco, of course, they have a better advantage in that encounter.
Of course, Monaco have a better advantage in that encounter, but don't also forget, Kingsley, that Reims, they are not in a very good position as well, so they will be hoping to get all 3 points. They are seated 15th in the Ligue 1 table, and of course, they need all 3 points, even more than Monaco do need the points, so as to get themselves away from the relegation danger. Don't you think that this is going to be a tricky tie against Monaco?
Both teams need the points. Both teams need the point. Monaco are seated 5th, just like you mentioned, with 40 points, and we have, of course, Lille down there with about 41 points, and Nice 3rd with 43 points. A win for Monaco tonight, of course, could possibly take them to 3rd position. So I think both teams are holding the points as it stands now. For Reims, you just mentioned, they are fighting. I see how they can get themselves away from relegation, because they are somehow closer to the relegation zone. They are seated 15 with 22 points. As it stands. If you take a look at them between the bottom side, Montpellier, they are 15. 15. Montpellier are 15 points, where Reims are with 22 points. So it's not that big. So both teams actually need the points, to actually see how they can cement, their place, maybe in the top 4 spots, as well as, Reims also seeing how they can get themselves away from relegation. So it's going to be a very tight encounter. But when you take a look at the performance of Monaco of recent, you want to say that, of course, they have an edge in this encounter than Reims.
They have an edge over Reims in this very encounter. Of course, no doubt they are chasing for the UEFA Champions League spot, seated 5th in the Ligue 1 table. Meanwhile, Reims is hovering within the relegation danger, and of course they will need all 3 points as well to get themselves away from that relegation zone. Let's head straight to Italian Serie A, because this evening we'll see Fiorentina coming up against Lecce tonight. Kingsley, this is another banana peel, because Lecce is another very stubborn team that can always hurt any team, any day, anytime. But if you take a look at their form and where they are seated in the Italian Serie A this season, do you think that they stand any chance against a Fiorentina side?
For me, talking about Fiorentina, they're one side, of course, that have shown a little bit of dominance so far in the Italian Serie A. From what we've seen, they've played about 26 games. They've also won about 12 of those games, and they've drawn 6. Yes, they've lost 8, as it stands. Seated 7 on the log. Yeah. So, for me, I think they stand, they have a much advantage ahead of Lecce, who are somehow, of course, closer to the relegation zone in the Italian Serie A table. I understand that upsets are bound to happen, but when you take a look at it in terms of form, you want to give it up to Fiorentina, who has, of course, maintained some level of consistency. If they even up their game and see how they can better their performance, they stand a chance of even making top 4, or probably one of the European sports, maybe the Europa League or the UEFA Conference League, as well. So for me, I want to really give it to Fiorentina in tonight's encounter against Lecce. For me, I think they stand a chance in this one.
Of course, they stand a chance in this very one. But let's head straight to, the Bundesliga, because we have big one coming up tonight, as well as Stuttgart will host Bayern Munich, who is seated comfortably at the top of the Bundesliga table. But they will be traveling away from home, and under Vincent Kompany, Kingsley, Bayern Munich seems not to be doing pretty well in terms of the away game under Vincent Kompany. We've seen them struggle in their away games, unlike the Bayern Munich that doesn't know home and away. Against a very stubborn and a very hard-fighting Stuttgart, can Bayern get all 3 points away from home this evening?
It's going to be a very difficult one for Bayern Munich, especially when you take a look at how they've been struggling, despite sitting very well on the table. I think they are about 8 points away from the second place table. Talking about Bayer Leverkusen, but they have 58 points, while Bayer Leverkusen have 50 points. So I think with that 8 points, they stand a very huge chance, at some points on the table if they maintain this high level of consistency. But against Stuttgart, just like you mentioned, a stubborn side in the German Bundesliga this time, is going to be a very tight one. And the fact that they are playing away from home is also going to make it so difficult for a Bayern side that as well been struggling. Since the last game, yes, I think they won their last game, but coming down to this one, it might be a difficult one due to the fact that, yes, they are playing. They have some couple of players that have shown high level of brilliance, the likes of Harry Kane. I think he's the highest goal scorer now with about 21 goals in the competition. They also have, other players, that have also stepped up their performance, the likes of Olise, and the rest of them. So for me, I think Bayern, of course, stand a chance, but that chance is slim. If they don't, of course, do what they have to do, try to see how they can get the goals. These days, we've seen them packing the balls in most of the high-class games. Yes. We just hope that, of course, they'll be able to do the needful at the end of the day today.
We hope that Bayern is able to pull the rabbits out of the hole this evening against a very stubborn Stuttgart side that will people. But I tell you, it promises to be a massive showcase of football, because Olise is in the form of his life. Harry Kane also doing pretty well. Jamal Musiala, these are some of the top names, for Bayern Munich that will hope to tear the nets of Stuttgart away from home this evening. But let's move straight to the La Liga, because we have a game in the La Liga this evening. Real Valladolid will be playing host to Las Palmas this evening. Kingsley, this is another mid-table clash. Can we see any upset, thereby seeing Las Palmas getting all 3 points away from home?
I will just see. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a tight game. Valladolid, I think so far so good. We've not really seen that much performance, from them so far. They are seated bottom of the table in the Spanish La Liga. So far, they've only won, just 4 games after playing about 24 matches. Very poor, from Valladolid this, time around. with just 15 points. For Las Palmas, I think the another side, of course, they are also struggling. So far, 25 games played, just 6 games won, and of course, I think that they've actually, drawn 5. They've lost 14 of those games, played. A very poor performance from them, but they are at least a way higher than Valladolid, who are seated bottom of the table. So we'll just see how this one, of course, is going to pounce at. It's all going to be fight of avoiding relegation. And I think Las Palmas, of course, have that advantage if you want to take a look at their current form at the moment.
All right, we'll see how this one pans out. But let's come back home this evening and talk about basketball, because the new Basketball African League host nation, talking about Morocco, will represent Kalahari Conference from April 5th. And we feature Nigerians, Rivers Hoopers, as well as a home team. We're talking about FUS in that very one. Kingsley, it's not about the Basketball African League, but my concern here is about Rivers Hoopers in the conference that they find themselves, talking about the Kalahari Conference. They will be coming up against, they will be facing the host, country as well in that very conference. Do you think that with the pedigree and with the impressive outing of Rivers Hoopers last time, they can be able to at least go far in this very competition?
Yes, of course. I just believe that if they do what they did last season, they should be looking forward to win the tournament. If they can, if they were able to get to the semi-final of the competition last time, so they should be aiming of winning the tournament. Last time we saw them taking away big teams, the likes of Petro de Luanda, and the rest of them, getting down to the semi-final. No one expected that level of performance from Rivers Super, but I think with the players they were able to get, the foreign players, the likes of Wee Perry, John Wickens, and the rest of them, these players, of course, really helped them. Kevin Amayo, and the rest of them, these players really helped them, of course, to be able to get that far. But if they can also to that same direction by seeing how they can get quality players such as those level of players this time, I think they can be able, of course, to get to the finals of this one. They've gotten the experience. This is going to be, I think, that the third or fourth time they'll be appearing at the Basketball African League. So they now have the experience. The coach of the side, Ogo Odaudu, is now, a very big name when it has to do with basketball down here, in Africa. I think Ogo Odaudu won, I think, the best coach so far in the last edition of the tournament. So I think they have everything it takes. We understand that, the state government has always been in support, of Rivers Hoopers, so far. So I don't think they have anything to worry about. If they were able to get to semi-final last time, they should be able to get to the finals this time around with the high, if they, get that high level of support they got last time.
All right, we'll see if they can be able to get such high level of support which they got last time. Of course, Commissioner for Sport, talking about Barrister Christopher Green, one man who truly understands the language of the slamming and dunking game, will definitely do his bit to ensure that Rivers Hoopers get the needed support that will enable them do well in this year's Basketball African League. Meanwhile, each conference will play 12 games, 12 games during the group phase, during which each team will face one another in their group. The 8 teams from across the 3 conferences will travel to Pretoria, that is South Africa, for 4 seedings game, followed by an 8th game, single elimination playoffs, and final round from Friday, June 6th to Saturday, June 14th. In that very one, we wish Rivers Hoopers the very best of success, or the very best of luck in this year's Basketball African League. But at this point, we'll take a quick break. When we are back, we'll take you back to the world of football. Don't go anywhere, because we'll be back in a jiffy. All right, you're welcome back from that short break. Don't forget how we told you that they were going to, or rather there's going to be some FA Cup fifth round play this evening between Aston Villa and Cardiff City. We also told you that Fiorentina in the Italian Serie A will be locking horns against Lisi, and in French League One we'll see Monaco in action tonight as well. Not also forgetting the La Liga, where Valladolid will also be in action against Las Palmas. I also told you that Rivers Hoopers, yes, they've been drawn in the Kalahari Conference in the Basketball African League, and of course the host country is also drawn alongside the Rivers Hoopers, and we're hoping that Rivers Hoopers is going to outsend this time around. But let's move on this evening. Kingsley, Rivers United were in action yesterday against Castina United, courtesy of the heavy downpour. But then they were one goal up before that match was halted. This morning, when the match came alive, they actually managed to get all 3 points, thereby moving up to second position. Do you see Rivers United still very much in for their title chase, despite being 9 points away from the league leaders?
If it's 9 points away, that means they are still in, because I think they just played about 26 games, so far. So that's to say they still able to at least, I think it's 12 or 13 games, to be played. So I think they are still in, for the title chase, no matter how high-flying Remo Stars, are at this moment. Remo Stars, I think they even lost their last game they played. So Rivers United, I think they can capitalize on this. The only thing is the fact that they would have even been more closer to Remo Stars if they have, of course, been getting the needed results in their last 3 or 4 games in consistent. But they've been dwindling in terms of performance, and that is what, of course, has kept them where they are on the table. But we just hope that if they can be able to pick up this victory, if they can build on this, I think they stand a very good chance of fighting for the title this season.
Of course, if they can build up this momentum from that impressive, point that they got against Castina United, I tell you, they are still in for the title chase, despite being 9 points of the league leaders. But I think for Rivers United, they need to maintain consistency. That is a watchword for me, because without consistency, it's going to be very difficult to catch up with the likes of Remo Stars that are high-flying, so far this season. Obviously, saw Bendel Insurance, they got all 3 points because they defeated Ikorodu City 2-1, thereby ensuring all the 3 points. And coincidentally, Bendel Insurance and Ikorodu City, they are maintaining 7th and 8th position. For Ikorodu City, it's looking likely that they are gradually going down, because this is not what we saw earlier, where they were even fighting for the top 4 finish.
For Ikorodu City, I think no matter where they are or wherever they find themselves at the end of the season, at least they should be away from relegation. That would be a very good one for them. Don't forget, when they got promoted, the season was that, the league was that bad for them. They were losing back to back to back. But when they got that stability, they started, getting all 3 points, in their games. And they even got, I think, where they were even contending for the top 4, just like you mentioned. But at this moment, maybe 1 or 2 injuries, in the team has probably, made them to, of course, get down at this point in time. It takes a whole lot for you to sustain yourself in the Nigerian Premier Football League because of the level of pressure, in the league. For instance, you take a look at the likes of Sporting Lagos. Last season, when they come, they were the talk of the town. Sporting Lagos this, Sporting Lagos starts. They even got to where they said they were going to win the league due to the level of performance they had. They were beating big teams, Yimba, Akwa United. Everybody was like, oh, these people have really come to stay. They still went back to relegation. So it takes a whole lot for you to be able to stabilize yourself as a new team, in the Nigerian Premier Football League, because of the high level of intensity, in the league. So we just hope that Ikorodu City will be able to maintain, at least see themselves, down to the next season. If they don't make it to the top 4, at least stabilize themselves in the league and not going back to relegation. That would be a very good one for them this season.
Of course, that could be a very good one for them this season so far. Moving on, Udinese goalkeeper, talking about Maduka Okoye, still has, about 2 more weeks on the sideline and remains doubtful for Nigerian crucial 2026 World Cup qualifier against Rwanda and Zimbabwe in March. Okoye went under the knife in December after suffering an injury on his right wrist. Although the club did not stipulate how long the goalkeeper is expected to be sidelined, Okoye has been out since December, missing 13 games in all competitions for his club's side. Kingsley, should this be a worrisome situation for Nigerian Super Eagles, considering the fact that the World Cup qualifier is just by the corner? And the number one safe hand, talking about Chief Stanley Nwabali, has been suffering some sort of emotional destabilization courtesy of the demise of his parents. Now, Maduka Okoye injury setting. Do you think that we should have anything to worry at all, or you think that we can have another replacement for the goalkeeping department?
We should be worried. I think we should be worried. If you take a look at it, Maduka Okoye, of course, would have been a very good addition or a very good support to the man Stanley Nwabali in goal. We just hope that Stanley Nwabali, of course, will be able to see how to let go his emotional challenge at this moment and see how he can put up his best in between the stick for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. We understand that what really happened to him, it's something that it's not, of course, it's something that so many cannot bear. Losing your both parents in a year could be so destabilizing, no matter how strong you could be as a being. So for me, I think he should just see how to maybe let go and focus on helping his country this time around to achieve this huge feat, because this is going to be a huge feat for Nigeria if we're able to see how to get to the World Cup come 2026, when we're almost down, but we're able to pull through. It will be a victorious thing. It will make, of course, it will liberate the minds of Nigerians, once again, for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. So I just hope that, Maduka Okoye will, get himself stabilized. Hopefully, we'll see, Stanley Nwabali will get himself stabilized, and hopefully we'll see Maduka Okoye joining, will be that very good. But if Okoye is not fit, I think we still have Francis Uzo, who understand he has not been so fantastic in goal for the Super Eagles of Nigeria, but still having him can also help us with that level of confidence going to the qualifiers.
Still have Maduka Okoye, part of the Super Eagles squad, could have added an advantage, especially now that Stanley Nwabali is, having some, mental issues or psychological issues, rather, courtesy of the demise of the parent. We hope that, Eric Chell is able to discover another new safe hand that can be able to stand in for the Super Eagles, so as to help us see if we can revive our hope of qualifying for the World Cup. About Kings, there is a developing stories. Austin J.J. Okocha has just come up to take a swipe against Jimmy Carragher for saying that the African Cup of Nations is a big tournament. Quoting JJ in part, he said that Jimmy Carragher, with the kind of football that he played during his days, isn't something that one should be proud of. And then again, he went further to say that he would not ask your child to be a player such as Jimmy Carragher. Do you think at this point, Samuel Eto'o also made a statement regarding that? Didier Drogba, even Djibril Cissé, and some of these African players, Mikel Obi not also left aside, and Haji Diouf. These are some of the big name players for Africa that have come up, to criticize, Jimmy Carragher for dismissing and disparaging the African Cup of Nations. Do you think that Jimmy Carragher at this point in time should withdraw that statement and tender unreserved apology to African football?
Definitely he should. He should, of course, tender an apology to the African Cup of Nations, to Africans, as a whole, as a stand, because that statement, really was not so good at all. How can you talk down on the African Cup of Nations? I really listened to Mikel Obi, and he said something very unique. He said, Today we're talking about the Premier League. Today we're hailing the Premier League to be the biggest league in the world. That the Premier League is the biggest league in the world today because of the diversity of players that plays in the league. We have the African player, we have the European player, we have the Asian player in that league. If it was the England players alone, the league won't be the way it is.
True.
So why talk down on why talk down on Africans? Why talk down on a prestigious tournament like the African Cup of Nations? Why you sit down? Why do you just you sit down and say the AFCON is not a major tournament? No, that's so bad. So it means that the very best that plays in the tournament, you know, they are not, you know, let's say world-class players to say, because when you're talking down on the tournament, you're also talking down on the players who plays in the tournament. I think that's why the likes of JJ Okocha, Mikel Obi, and the rest of them, they stood up, of course, to, you know, counter what the man has said, because you really, that's a lay down to what they have done over the years, to what the tournament that they really glorified, that they dreamed to play in, and you're talking down on it. So I really love the gesture of, you know, the likes of JJ and the rest of them coming up to counter what Jimmy Carragher said. Jimmy Carragher, since he retired and started football pundits, I think he has been a very controversial pundit, you know, saying things at sometimes that do not really make sense, that he's not supposed to say. And now he has come down to Africa. I'm really, really proud with what, you know, African players, you know, those who are playing and those, of course, who have retired, you know, what they've said, you know, about what Jimmy Carragher said. The AFCON is a prestigious tournament in the world.
The AFCON, of course, is indeed a prestigious tournament in the world, and I tell you, for anybody to try disparaging the African Cup of Nations must be on a long thing. Austin JJ Okocha also, you know, joining up his voice to also condemn emphatically and in total the gesture of Jimmy Carragher, who actually criticized and disparaged the African Cup of Nations Cup as not being a major tournament. Moving on, Kingsley, this evening we hear that Ruben Amorim has come up to defend Andre Onana. Of course, Andre Onana has been on the eye of the storm for some of the errors that he has caused leading to goals. In fact, for 12 good seasons of David De Gea for Manchester United, he made 17 errors leading to goals. But just under 2 seasons of Andre Onana, he has committed 12 errors leading to goals, and that is why the criticism has come so harsh against Onana by United fans. But then the Gaffer has come up to defend Andre Onana, saying that they should support him. Do you think that Andre Onana is part of Manchester United problem?
Everybody is part of Manchester United problem in Manchester United. Everybody, nobody is left out, including the owners. Everybody at Manchester United is a problem United are facing today. So they should not just stick it to, you know, one person. Oh, is the reason why we're not getting the goals or maybe winning matches? No, that's what they call it, a team, football team. It's not an individual sport. All right. So if Onana is making mistake, does this stop Bruno Fernandes from getting the goals? Does this stop Garnacho from getting the goals? Let him concede, but you score the goals. All right, that's the thing. Did they score? Last game they played against Everton, they managed to draw. Even though Onana conceded or whatever, where are the goals? Where is the nice pattern of football play, you know, and all of that? I'm still looking at United. 2 of their players that have left the side, are doing well.
Yes.
The likes of Anthony, who went to Real Betis, is scoring goals and getting the assists every match day. Marcus Rashford, who left to Aston Villa, is also having an impressive performance. So if you could take a look at that, take a look at the fact that any player that leaves Manchester United goes out to do well. So that's to tell you that the club is the problem. So they should not pinpoint it to one player and say, oh, it's the reason why we're suffering. No, everybody is, everybody at United at the moment, you know, they are the problems. They are the problem, I beg your pardon, that Manchester United have as it stands. So for me, Onana, they shouldn't, I won't even say anything about it. For me, Onana has been favoured. Every time I was backing him. Now Amorim is also backing him as well. So let him enjoy the grace.
Let Onana enjoy the grace, but I tell you, it's not a happy one for United faithfuls all over the world, because you go through social media, so I think they'll be criticizing Onana heavily, cost of his school child errors, according to some, that have cost Manchester United just less than 2 seasons at Old Trafford. He has made 12 errors leading to goals, but David De Gea spent 12 good years, and out of those 12 years, just 17 errors leading to goal. But Onana is gradually trying to surpass that record within a few years. Manchester City boss Joseph Salah Guardiola insists that Manchester City will bounce back to become the Premier League force once more. Kingsley, just 1 minute before we go, can Manchester City bounce back to that fear factor once again?
I think they can. They can, but it will take at least, let's say, 2 seasons before City will get back. It will take at least 2 seasons, because they have to reshuffle the team. They have to pick out some players and also inject some. And then it will also take Pep some time to instill his philosophy, on these players to be able to have the best of play, on the pitch. So Pep, of course, I think he will need time, like 2 seasons. I'm not seeing Manchester City bouncing back, 100% come next season. They still have to gel. They still have to understand themselves. They have, players who are, above 30, the likes of Kevin De Bruyne. You talk about Ike Kondogan, These are players, that are really, age enough. And no matter what they're doing at this point in time, Manchester City need that young blood to be able to facilitate things. And that's what Pep needs to do at this point in time. See how he can get those quality players that can come help the team. For De Bruyne, the rest of them, I think their time, has started coming to an end at Manchester City. So for me, I think City will bounce back, but it's all about time.
City will bounce back, but it's all about time, according to Kingsley, of course, with Pep Joseph Guardiola at the helm of affairs. Trust the man. He's a tactician and a magician as well. He has what it takes to do that bounce back. But before we leave this evening, our sport extraordinaire for today goes to no other person than Stephen Curry, because he hit 12 3-pointers in a game for the 3rd time as the Golden State Warriors beat Orlando Magic 121-115 in that very one. This is where we drop the anchor on the show this evening. Tomorrow morning, 7 to 8 a.m., do well to join us, where we preview another sport personality. Promises to be a massive one. My name is Emmanuel Michael, the Prime Minister of the Airways. I did the show this evening alongside Kingsley Emmanuel. We are saying thanks for watching.